You can call me a heretic, because a lot of people do. There's Jezebels, there are spirits. I don't know the names of all these spirits, but they are in almost every church. They control the narrative. They control what doctrine is. They control the dogma. They control what's allowable, text, scripture, what beliefs. And a lot of this is false. So this is an important thing. It needs to be said that not everything in the Bible is from God. Not everything that God said is in the Bible. Not all scripture is in the Bible. And not everything in the Bible is scripture. Now, by me saying this fact, this truth, there's a lot of people going to come on here and say that, I'm totally out of line, I'm a heretic, maybe I should go to hell for saying such things, but it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. What information were we not allowed to have? Like in the Bible, when there is a pagan disbeliever, then it should say this is a pagan disbeliever without you having to do additional research. There should be, if there's a lot of effort put into writing an entire story, then a positive outcome or something that benefited God's people should also be included. And it shouldn't be framed in a way that people generations later are trying to copy and emulate the pagan disbelievers. Unless you go and do your own research, which the churches don't. They don't. They learn their consensus religious theory from the churches and from the religious community, and it's false and it's wrong. There's a lot of things that are not in the Bible that should be, and this makes people angry at God. It gives atheists fuel. It fuels people to hate God. God is love. God is compassion. How come no one thought to put in the Bible how to pray? How come no one thought in the Bible to define fasting? Because see, if this is a book from God, now listen guys, it's important that we know how to fast. If God calls us to fast, it doesn't say that in the Bible. There is circumstantial evidence that we have to read and figure out for ourselves. Oh yeah, I should probably fast too, because if Jesus fasted, and these prophets fasted, then it might help me if I fast. Yeah, but it doesn't tell you to fast in there, and it should. That's been removed. It doesn't tell you how to fast. It doesn't tell me, do I not eat? Do I not drink too? Do I not smoke cigarettes? Do I not watch television shows or plays or read books? What am I allowed to do? How do I pray? How do I respectfully pray? How long should my prayer be? And there is freedom involved in this, but we don't have a baseline. This basic information is not in the Bible. Like how a family should treat each other is not in the Bible. How come that's not in there? How come that's not in there? All we have is one quasi-verse from Paul saying that women aren't allowed to assert power over a man, which goes completely against God's teachings. The basic rules to life are not in there. The basic rules to life are not in the Bible. And another thing is that there is no mention of marriages lasting into the afterlife and in heaven. That's not in the Bible anywhere. But then there's a verse kind of taken out of context that's a parable saying that there's no gender and there's no marriage in heaven, which is false. This is absolutely false, as we know from lots of near-death experiences. So all this stuff is to make it seem like our Creator doesn't love us. What else is not in there? How do we raise our children? How do we raise our children? How come that's not in the Bible? How come that's not in the Bible? Now, I do see a verse referring to the Jews in a very specific situation where if their child is rowdy or disobedient, that they should be put to death. Yeah, that's in there. And in this one particular case, this was the case. It wasn't true for any other people in any other time. But that is the only example of how to treat your children. Listen to this. This is what I'm talking about. The whole Bible, it doesn't tell you how to raise your children, how to teach your children, how to train your children, what's expected of them. But there's one verse. If they're disobedient, stone them to death. It's the same thing for women. There's nothing how you treat your wives, or wives how you treat your husband. But then there's a quasi, it's not even a verse, something written by maybe Paul, or maybe Timothy, or maybe someone else, that says that we're supposed to, do nothing and we're slaves to men. I don't know. Everything in the Bible is not from God. and everything God said is not in the Bible. Now, there is stuff in there that we can learn from. There's history in there. But if you want to know what we should follow as believers, what we should follow are the 10 Commandments. That is God's law inscribed on a stone tablet. We don't idol worship. We don't lie, cheat, steal. Okay? We don't commit adultery. We don't murder. It's okay to kill injustice if someone has killed someone else. That's not murder. It's a completely different word. So a lot of this is just history. I need to put this out there because, a lot of atheists, a lot of disbelievers, they have a lot of text. They have hundreds of pages that they can use to say that God is real or that God is evil, because this has been said in God's name. And the religious Jezebels, the demons and devils have used this against us. They've used it as ammunition against the believers. God's law is inscribed on all of our hearts. We morally already know what's right and wrong. We were built with the desire to seek out our Creator, so we don't need a book at all. And, it's good to read these texts and know what's in them. But, if you just read it and get through it, are you really thinking about what's in there? When it doesn't tell you how to raise your children, but there's one verse that says if they're disobedient, stone them to death. And then atheists and Satanists use this, when it was only referring to one particular group of Jewish people. So, this is just used to oppress people and cause, conflict and silence groups. It's all wrong. There's nothing in there about taking your government back if the government is evil and satanic. There's nothing in there that says if your government is promoting pagan, polytheist doctrine, religious laws that God doesn't approve, that you shouldn't take them out. There's nothing in the Bible about that. We have to read between the lines and do research to see Esther was raised up to do that. But yet, her actually doing that isn't in the Bible. That is taken out. This whole thing, it's twisted. It's almost like the Bible is written for the Satanists, to empower them and disempower us. I'm going to say this honestly. I am a believer of God. I believe God. I'm for justice, equality for all people. We have different roles. There's different things we do, but we're all important. But this whole religious community, the Bible has been weaponized, and it has been used to silence God's people, to oppress God's people, to keep evil governments in power. And that's all I'm going to say about that.